when the communication is, listen, I love you. I want you to have a great life. And I'm going to tell you right now that as an adult, it's going to be so easy to skip devotions. It's going to be so easy to skip the workout. But if right now you can just commit to this and trust me on this, then one day you will look back and thank me. And right now you may not, and that's okay. As long as you can keep your eyes on, I always say, keep your eyes on the prize of the young man or woman that you're raising. And that's our goal, not their happiness today, not their satisfaction in our parenting today, but it's who they're going to be down the road.
Mamas, welcome back to the Gather Mom podcast. We are so excited to have you with us. We are in a series called Gather the Experts, and we have another amazing expert to introduce you to today. We want you to meet Monica Swanson, who is a boy mom who lives in paradise, so we're all a little jealous, and is a podcaster. And we love getting to talk to other people that do podcasts and just kind of hear their story. But she has so much wisdom to share with us today, so we can't wait for you to meet her. So hello, Monica. We're so glad you're with us today.
Well, aloha, and so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
She gave it away. She said aloha. Now I know where she lives in paradise. Tell us a little bit about where you live, your family, and just what you've been doing in ministry up to this point.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys. So the backstory is my husband and I are both from the Pacific Northwest, so Oregon and Washington. I'm still a Seattle girl at heart, love a rainy day and hot coffee, but we've been in Hawaii somehow 24 years now, so longer than we've lived anywhere else. And that also dates us, doesn't it? So yeah, we're getting old, but we moved here for my husband's medical residency program, and I thought it would be 3 years, but it turned into a lifetime. So by the time he finished residency, we had 3 little boys and just found Hawaii a great place to raise kids. We had one more son a few years later. I have 4 boys. Yep. So 3 are now somehow legal adults. And then my youngest is 15. So still have him around, which I'm so thankful for. And life in Hawaii is great. It's probably not what people picture. I'm not just lounging at the beach all day, every day. But
that was the first question. How many times do you go to the beach? Yeah.
Okay. The truth is I try to go at least once a week. And that is typically on Sunday. Our church does. A lot of the moms and kids, actually families, gather at the beach after church Sundays. Wow. So that's kind of my commitment, is like, just get out and go hang out with the moms. Now, there are seasons where I'm at the beach more because my son has surf contests or other things like that. My 3rd son is a professional surfer. So that is a really fun and exciting part of life. As we record, he's like in Brazil. He just left South Africa. I went with him to Australia. Like, he's everywhere. But that's been really fun. And but now, because my 4th son is a golfer, I'm spending more time on the golf course than I am at the beach.
Okay, that's a different line, I feel like. It is.
Yeah.
The socks, maybe. So
yes, but life in Hawaii is good, and I have just enjoyed raising our boys here. So we could talk about it all day long. Pros, cons. People reach out a lot, and they're like, "I want to move to Hawaii," and I'm like, okay, let's talk about it first. Let's have a reality check, because it may not be all you're imagining. So, yeah.
I really am curious, though, like I really would love to touch on it. Good. What are the pros do you feel like there's anything about the Hawaiian culture or kind of where you are that is a real pro to families and mothering? Yeah. And then, are there cons? Is there anything especially maybe related to faith or anything that is? Sure. I want to know if your eggs are expensive. I hear it's expensive over there.
Well, we do have chickens for a reason. So we live on a couple acres. So yeah, we've got chickens, grow our own fruit. But yes, as far as pros go, I'll say the quick answer to that is there's just a slower pace to life here. Much less focus on materialism. So we don't think about the cars we drive. People's homes are typically very small and very simple. Nobody has high expectations. So I think there's just, when we travel a lot to Southern California for surf, and my 2 oldest sons actually went to college there and graduated. So they're living in Southern California. But as soon as we get there, my husband and I feel like this pressure. All of a sudden, we're like, oh my goodness, my blood pressure just went up, because it just feels like you got to keep up with everybody and what kind of car. And so, all that to say, slow pace, a great focus. Our church, just lots of potlucks, lots of gatherings, lots of just real life. You kind of skip a lot of the surface stuff that I sense when I'm back on the mainland. So that's all good. But then the cons would be it's expensive. It's ridiculous. Yes, eggs and everything else. I mean, things you don't even think about are expensive. So cost of living is really high. And also, probably part of that laid back culture is raising your kids here. There's not a lot of peers who have big goals or ambitions.
Ooh,
So you've
okay.
got a lot of kids who just want to grow up and surf and kind of just cruise. So
Yeah.
you're not there's not that positive peer pressure of kids going places. So we kind of have to keep our boys motivated with our own family culture in that way. So that's just a little snapshot.
No, that's good. Okay, so one of the things about you, your latest book is Becoming Homeschoolers, and
Mm-hmm.
I know a little of your story that homeschooling wasn't ever something you had planned. It was one of your sons that came home and said, "Would you homeschool me?" Right?
Yeah.
As
Yes.
your journey.
Exactly. And I just don't think, that son is about to turn 26. So that was a time where it just wasn't on my radar. My husband and I hadn't, when we got married. So now that my boys are dating and, preparing for marriage season of life, I'm one of the first things I encourage them to talk about with anyone they date or would consider marrying is make sure you're on the same page with how you want to raise your kids. And I'm laughing because I look back and I'm like, we didn't talk about that. Even after we got married, it just didn't, we just assumed we went to public school. Our kids will probably go to public school. But once we moved to Hawaii, we got to that season. I had a few friends that were homeschooling. My son spent time with other kids, especially in Sunday school, and they would talk about homeschooling. So yeah, when he brought it up, I was like, oh dear,
Yeah.
change the subject quick because I'm not ready for this. But yeah, the Lord just kept bringing that back to mind. And it wasn't long before we gave it a shot, and we haven't
Yeah.
looked back.
That's amazing. So Rebecca and I are both public school mamas.
Yep.
I think some of the great wisdom we've heard along the way, though, is just holding that loosely, and that it's
Mhm.
a year to year, sometimes even semester to semester decision of what's best for your family and that kid. But
Yep.
I would say that I think both of us have noticed an uptick in
Oh, yeah.
homeschooling.
Hmm.
What do you think that's coming from? Have you seen that too?
Oh, for sure. And of course, I did a ton of research for my book, and there has been a very significant uptick in homeschooling. Some people want to correlate it, and it does correlate, I believe, with the pandemic, because during the whole COVID thing, a lot of people were, of course, schooling at home. But then they were like, I think I could do this better on my own than whatever schools, it was horrible. Everyone had to just really quick figure out how to send everything home with their kids. So all grace goes out to the school systems in that season. But I think that's when a lot of parents were like, well, maybe I could try this. So they gave it a try, and a lot did end up sticking with it. But I would say, in addition to that, especially for people of faith, I think that just the things going on in our culture today have just drastically increased in just that whole just a lot of darkness has crept in and become normalized. And the the shift towards homeschooling, I think, has just been in a way to protect kids' hearts and to say we don't want to expose our kids to this. Maybe we're not able to be as involved as we would like in the school system. We're not able to make the changes we want to see. And so let's just bring them home. So I think there's a number of things that have caused that.
No, that's good. Well, and that's the thing is I think we've been very fortunate. We live in an area that has a really quality school system, and
Mm,
we're able to protect our values within that
mm,
school system.
mm-hmm,
And so, if those two pieces were different, it
mm-hmm,
would definitely be something that we were
mm-hmm.
evaluating. For a mom that's maybe like you, that has a kid that's interested, or she the Lord saying to her like, "Hey, this is what I have for your family," but she's scared to death.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What would you say to her?
Well, the beauty of, living in America in this time that we're in is you have a lot of freedom. You can try it and you can go back. Most areas, there's options to do things like hybrid. Here in Hawaii, it's all or nothing. If you homeschool, your kids can't do sports at the public school. They can't do anything, which is a bummer. It shouldn't be that way. I'm like, I pay taxes. So I wish I had the energy to fight that.
Yeah.
But I believe it was they call it the Tim Tebow law that most states, I think the majority of states have adopted, where kids can, homeschool kids can participate in at least school sports. But many schools also allow kids to come for just a class or two or be involved in extracurricular activities. So I think there's a lot of options out there. But I also would say, if you have that nudge in your heart, if your kid's interested, if you're feeling like the Lord's laying that on your heart, then I just say, give it a try. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And you might end up finding you love it, and you might regret if you don't try it later.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I had two boys first, and I think I always thought of them as like the tough ones. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have hard times and have to
Mm-hmm.
like prove yourself,
Yeah.
and then you have a girl at the end. And so it's amazing how with her, I'm way more sensitive to if the schools were to get bad or if I felt like she needed to homeschool, I would
Mm-hmm.
probably be more willing to do
Sure.
it for her.
Uh-huh. I could
So
see that.
having four boys, rowdy,
Yeah.
crazy, all day
Yeah.
long, every
Yeah.
day. What do you think you learned from homeschooling those boys
Oh,
for all
yeah.
these years?
Well, I'm totally there with you in the whole, like, you want to give boys hard things to do. I think that's huge. I'm all about character development, and I believe that's where character develops. What I've loved about homeschooling is I've had the opportunity to kind of choose those hard things.
Yeah.
So instead of just, letting them figure it out, being in a school setting where I'm not there, I don't really know what's going on. My son's got internships. Well, they were all out surfing big waves, which is, plenty of challenges come through that physically, as well as, going on crazy hiking trips. They go spearfishing, they dive through caves on our North Shore. Like, physically, they have so many opportunities. But they also got jobs. My two oldest sons were in the dish pit at a local restaurant. Oh my goodness, they learned a lot and quickly as teenagers. So I think we had a lot of opportunities to give them challenging things to do, and also more time with their dad. My husband's schedule, he kind of has a couple weeks on and some time off, and so he was able to really spend that time with them, what he wouldn't have been able to do if they were gone all day at school.
No, I think that's a benefit too. I see a lot of like dads traveling these days and moms
Mm-hmm.
saying, I just want my kids to be able to see their dad and they
Mm-hmm.
are, in the
Yeah.
school system where they have to go for a certain time. Both of our husbands are in ministry. And one thing I've noticed is that you're pretty much at church all weekend. So if
Yeah.
your kids are in school all week during the day, they really don't see their dad because then he's at the weekend.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
had to be extra careful trying to provide those times for them to be
Sure.
together. But I
Yeah.
love what you said about they got to go out and do stuff, like not just read about it in books, but spearfish,
Right.
surf, all these things that I think the boys would love. We
Yeah.
don't necessarily have opportunities for spearfishing here, but I think it's amazing. They got to get like real world
Yes.
testing and trying.
And I'll add to that, because I have four sons, and just seeing how unique and different each of them are, how God wires all of our kids so differently. But my oldest son, he loved computers and learning to code, and he created his own website when he was about 15 or 16. By learning to code on his own. And then he was out taking videos and photography and posting them on his website. So he was kind of that guy. My second son loved to play guitar and was leading worship at his youth group. And he got into debate, speech and debate. And we traveled around the island for speech and debate tournaments. So those two were kind of, and both of them super active physically, but then it was my third and fourth sons who used their free time to surf, golf, and do those things. So it's kind of fun to look back and go, wow, they all had the same amount of time, but each of them invested it differently depending on how they're wired.
Yeah. Monica, you're similar, I think, to Rebecca and I in the sense that you seem to kind of run hard. So, we all like to have a lot of things going on and,
Uh-huh.
like to be very intentional with our families, but also know that we've been called to use our gifts and other ways to help, especially help women and moms and things like that. But managing, I was going to say juggling, but I don't really like that term, but managing all of that and making sure that we're prioritizing all of that well is it's a constant tension to manage So I'm really curious for you, where have there been seasons where you maybe have swung too far one way? Maybe you said yes to too many things on your
Hmm.
ministry side or your writing side, etc. And you kind of had to have
Hmm.
like a little, maybe a breaking point or a break, or what does that
Hmm.
look like for you?
Yes, I always reflect on an analogy I heard about balance, using that word, and how it's like riding a bicycle, where you just are constantly in motion. And yeah, if I were to stop at any point, I would fall over, right? So there were seasons where it felt like, wow, I'm giving a lot to my online work, my ministry, but as long as you keep moving, I feel like you I've come to a place where I've learned to accept that I'm never going to feel like I'm fully balanced. There's times where I am just full on sports mom, homeschool mom, whatever else, and I'm like, "Oh, I've hardly touched my work lately." But again, as long as we keep moving. So I think perspective is huge on that, and just giving yourself a lot of grace to say, "I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. God is, and he covers me." Um, Fortunately, I've never really hit that burnout or breaking point. As we're recording, my podcast is on a little sabbatical, and I think that's because I felt it coming. I've been supporting my dad through a cancer battle and have boys traveling all over, and just so much going on that I was like, you know what? I sense that if I keep going, this isn't going to be pretty. So let's be proactive and take the break now. And I'm so glad I did. So I think maybe some of that comes with maturity and getting a little bit older and learning more about myself and what I can and can't do or take on. So, yeah, I think grace is necessary.
Do you feel like with the moms that you are with there in Hawaii that they have the same issues that moms all over the world have? Are they struggling with time management and discipline, maybe even their health? Like, what are you seeing in those moms?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. And that's a good one to reflect on. But I think, kind of like I touched on a moment ago, there is a different culture here for sure. So I have a few friends who I would say are wired like me and like the two of you more, but there's definitely a little bit more of a laid back, kind of just vibe in general here. So I don't feel like all the moms get me. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really totally fit in on the North Shore of Oahu in the surf community. But certainly the moms I know, especially in my church community, they're all concerned about their kids. They all want to build strong marriages. Everybody's managing finances and all the other health issues, all of that. So, in that way, yes, but I do think that depending on where you live, there's different priorities. And so that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Do you have a passion area for women and moms, something that you love
Mm.
to talk to them about because it's just something that's really heavy on your heart?
Goodness, yes. I mean, certainly just intentional parenting and character and faith together have been the main thrust of my messaging in my books. I have my character training course, which is just so much of my heart for helping parents raise kids of character, because you just look around and see how lacking that is in kids today. But also, to go with that, and a direction I'm definitely focusing on ahead, is just the gift of raising healthy kids, and how that really stems from family habits, things that probably I didn't even realize we were doing until I paused and looked back and went, oh my goodness, some of these things we do that I assume are just normal, I'm like, they're actually not. Not everybody's doing them. And they've made a world of difference. Like I
Mm.
said, my two older boys went to college and are working and living independently, but I look at their lives and I'm like, they are so healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. They use their lunch break to go for runs or go surf. On the weekends, they're, doing all kinds of activities. They wear trackers to make sure they're sleeping well. Like, I'm so proud of who they are as this whole healthy person. And that began at home. That began with the healthy habits that we really worked on. And so I think that is an area that I'm really passionate about, encouraging parents to embrace these lifestyles, because when kids grow up one day, they have to live in that body that we've given them. And I think it's a big responsibility. I touch on this in my book, Boy Mom, but really, kids don't know that sugar's bad for them or that screen time can damage them. They don't know how much sleep to get. So it's really a huge responsibility we have as parents to raise them up in a way that they have these healthy habits that then can prepare them for a lifetime ahead. So that's another area besides character and faith, I'd say, is just that whole health focus for families.
So I think that's really good. So I'd love to ask a few follow-up questions about that,
Yeah.
because I think one of the things that's been tricky for me moving into like the teenage
Mm-hmm.
to move where they need to start making some of those choices on their own.
Yeah.
Whereas when they were little, I could say, okay, everybody, it's time for Bible time, or okay, we're all going to go exercise, or we're in that stage now where they need to be making those choices on their own. And
Uh-huh.
there's a real tension of you want to remind and encourage
Mm-hmm.
them, but it can almost be damaging if it's too,
Nagging.
yes, and controlling. So I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, what did that transition look like for you of them moving into those teenage years and starting to own some of those healthy habits on their own? How much were you still needing to kind of continue to push on that?
Mm-hmm.
And where did they start taking ownership?
Right. What a great question. Uh, Once again, because every child is unique and different, it's been interesting. And I would say that having this fourth son of mine has been really good for me and keeping me humble because my first three, it just felt like they kind of embraced all these things pretty naturally. And then comes along number four, who decides, to show me what it's like to actually have to really work at some of these things. But I would say if you do the work when they're young in these areas of healthy habits, it's going to be pretty natural when they grow up. One conversation I remember having with my firstborn was all my boys started off competitively surfing, but he hit a stage where he decided he enjoyed surfing more just for fun, being a soul surfer, a free surfer, than competing. But then in high school, and he's doing all this computer stuff and homeschooling. And I remember saying, listen, I know that you're not competing anymore, but you do need to find something to do regularly. And let's consider some of the things that you can do for a lifetime. So, most people don't enjoy running initially, but I was like, why don't you try going running? Go for a mile or two and try to make a goal of doing that, a couple times a week for a few months and see if you can learn to enjoy that. Or go swimming or get a bike. Like there are certain things that are lifelong activities. So I just said, I'm going to ask you to incorporate this into your routine because it's important for a lifetime. It's just like brushing your teeth, just like making your bed. You need exercise. Your body was made for it. So let's just incorporate that. So I think that a lot of this is just so much easier if you have a healthy relationship. So just continuing to nurture that relationship with your kids, making sure that you enjoy them and have fun with them, but also that they respect you and that you are the authority. As long as they live in your home, you're still
Right,
the
girl.
authority. So it's tough sometimes. I've got this 15-year-old who loves to push back, but I'm like, I'm still mom. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to raise you well. And so you're going to need, and so this is where I use a lot of if thens. So it's like, if you have made your bed, done your devotions, done your chores, then yes, you can go hang out with your friends. If you have, gotten your workout in, whatever it might be. And that way it doesn't feel so naggy. It feels more like you just get to do that after you've done the other things.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because that's a more carrot approach than the stick. I think where we can fall into trouble is it's like, okay, you didn't do your devotional, and I don't know, mom standing
Sure.
over
Uh-huh.
and
I've
creating a
been there too. Yeah.
which I have definitely
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
What's working with my teenager right now is he and I sat down in Canva and made a habit tracker because
Oh,
he
wow.
he said, I want to be doing these things. I'm just struggling to be
Mm-hmm.
consistent.
Good for him.
And so we were like, okay, well, what do you need? And he said, I think I need something visual. So we created a
There you
visual
go.
chart that hangs on his door. And so I just said, okay, these things have to be completed every day if you want to be able to, be with
Right.
your band every week, or
Yep.
because he has this little garage band.
I love it. I love it.
We have garage bands. Yeah.
So cool.
And they needed my garage. And so it's like, okay, if you want them to be able to come over and you guys make a ton of noise for a couple hours in the garage, these habits they have to be checked off every day. And that was
Fair
good
enough.
because I think there was a place, Monica. I think that's probably why I brought it up, is because there was a space where it was like, I knew he wasn't exercising. I knew he wasn't spending time with the Lord. I knew he wasn't, like, for us, one of the things was like him wearing his retainers every night, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, I'm sure your kids do that. Should I be doing that? Girl, why are you sitting on those teeth? I can start to tell because he's still like somewhat close to post braces, so I can tell if it is just, I
Yep.
can tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's $3,000, buddy. You better put these
Oh
things
yeah.
in. You
In
know?
Hawaii, 7,000. So there, just for a little, that would be typical. So yes, and amen.
What?
No, but
That's
I think that when the communication is, listen, I love you. I want you to have a great life. And I'm going to tell you right now that as an adult, it's going to be so easy to skip devotions. It's going to be so easy to skip the workout. But if right now you can just commit to this and trust me on this, then one day you will look back and thank me. And right now you may not, and that's okay. As long as you can keep your eyes on, I always say, keep your eyes on the prize of the young man or woman that you're raising. And that's our goal, not their happiness today, not their satisfaction in our parenting today, but it's who they're going to be down the road.
Yeah, I think that's really good because I think it is challenging for parents to move from commander to coach and kind of switch into that role. And I think sometimes we, as we're wanting them to figure it out, we almost take our hands off a little too much because it's like, oh, well, they need to start figuring out who they are and everything. And while they're, like you said, while they're still under your roof, I'm paying for this Wi-Fi and you want to use it, well, you better be doing the things.
It's true.
You know?
Very, very good. Yes.
So, yeah. So I think too, with that whole idea of like teaching our kids healthy habits, we as their parents have to be doing those healthy habits ourselves.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I remember when my boys were about to head into middle school and start playing sports, we really had not done like exercise actively. And so I was like, all right, well, let's get out there and do it together. But honestly, it was so hard for me because I had not been doing it that it was hard for me to get them to do it. What would you say to a mom that you're like, listen, these need to be part of your regular routine too, just to keep your health? What would you say?
I love that you brought that up because I think that's super important. And what I like to say is the beauty of this whole thing of modeling, which is absolutely essential and it's so important, is that it's good for you too. Like if your kids motivate you to develop more healthy habits, well, then guess what? You're going to benefit as well because you're probably only rising up to the things that you knew you should have been doing anyway. And so let the kids be a motivator and then go ahead and be honest with them. Say, hey, I'm realizing I've been busy and I've kind of let some things go. Maybe I haven't been spending time reading the Bible regularly, but I'm going to commit to this. And so do it with me, kind of make it a family thing. Or I haven't been exercising, but you're going to watch me do my best to commit to this. Not perfectly, but when they see you following through, that's going to help motivate them. And it's probably going to make a bigger impact than if you were doing it all along. So I just encourage parents to rise up to the very thing you're calling your kids out to do and do your best to be consistent, get some accountability if you need to. But yeah, everybody wins that way.
That's right. That's good. Well, and I think that kind of leads us into, I'd love to talk about mom's health. Did a series recently on your podcast where you kind of did like a spring wellness. You guys were talking about wellness. And, Rebecca and I are both kind of changing. We've been on a hormone journey. Mom's bodies go through so much.
Oh, yeah.
We go through so much after, having the kids. That does so much to our bodies. And then, then we raise these kids and then our bodies betray us again.
Yes.
And, it's just this journey of discovery. And a lot of it is, it's hard because you have to become an investigator of your own health. Right. Yeah. And take on responsibility for being like, I am going to run this down. For me, basically, I was at a point where I was exhausted all the time. And I came to a point where I was like, I'm unwilling to live the rest of my life like this. So I have to take this bull by the horns. Yep. Went to a functional medicine doctor, realized I had no testosterone in my body. And that started me going on the right track. So for a mom that is potentially in a place, Monica, where she's maybe starting to enter that perimenopause phase, she's noticing some changes in her body, and she just doesn't even know where to start. What would you encourage her with?
Yeah. Well, I think that we're all blessed to live when we're living, because I think right now, finally, people are talking about this.
Yeah.
And I mean, even 10 years ago, you didn't find the kinds of things that are out there now in podcasts and books and on social media. Thank God that it is now officially an open topic. So everyone can talk about it. But with that comes a lot of confusion because everybody's got a different opinion.
Right.
And so I don't know if there's an easy answer to where to start, but just probably start by talking about it. Start by talking to a friend. You found a functional medicine doctor, maybe find somebody who has someone they can trust, and start to explore, start to read some books. And, it's tricky because you can go off the deep end there and you can get consumed and really overwhelmed. But I'd say start simple, and always, I'm just a big advocate for being reasonable. Like, let's not get extreme. I'm not one to dive into diets or trends or fads, but I do say be reasonable, but
Mhm.
listen to your body and talk to somebody. Go get some help, whether it's with your OB-GYN or a functional doc, but definitely give yourself the freedom, because your family will be blessed. It's not selfish. We all know that, taking care of yourself means you're going to be able to better take care of everybody else. So I just do encourage that, and just think I'm so thankful that there's people talking about it now.
Yeah. Would you be willing to share a little bit about, and not as a prescribing doctor or anything like that? That's what your husband is for, right? We don't have him on for like a medical degree, just for
Right.
you personally. Has there been anything as far as like how you're exercising, supplements
Hmm.
you're taking,
Yeah.
changes you've made in your diet that you're like, you know what, those actually did for me kind of
Hmm.
start to make a difference?
Right. Well, I'll be 55 this year, and I think that I've been pretty blessed to not have a horrible, like, journey into hormone changes. I'm actually still in perimenopause, so I'm not even a full year out. So I'm kind of late in that. Um, but I do think that paying attention to research, evidence-based medicine, my husband's very, like, anything I bring up, he'll be like, show me the science. So I don't get by with him, like, trying different trends. He's like, we don't do that. Everything has to be gold standard, placebo test, do all the things. But certainly, we have both focused more on muscle health, so lifting weights.
Yeah.
We are now taking supplements. We didn't used to, because we really love to eat healthy, and my husband is all about getting your nutrition from foods. But I have been working with a company called Previnex, and partly because my husband looked into it, we met the founder and CEO, and we just believe it's really legit, and actually there's so many companies out there selling just junk these days. So you need to know what you're taking.
Mhm.
Um, and I am an ambassador with them. So I have, discounts and all that on my website. But besides supplements, lifting weights, I think that that oftentimes women in their middle age, we don't need to eat as much as we used to. So
Yeah.
sadly, we just, our metabolism slows down. And so I think to some extent, we need to just pay attention. And everyone wants to blame, oh, it's hormones, I've put on weight. I'm like, yeah, maybe so, but also let's adjust. Maybe we don't need to eat as much as we used to. So just being aware.
Listen,
And
that is such a good word, and you said it. Thank you. I hear that. That was for me. I agree. I do not need
yeah,
to drink every night. I'm just
no, we don't. And so just kind of being a grown up about it and being like, I don't have to blame everybody else or blame whatever's going on in my body. I can just grow up and adjust accordingly. That doesn't mean starve yourself. It just means be reasonable. So I think that those are some of the things. I do have my little estrogen patch now, taking the progesterone at night. I think that's helped. I was having serious hot flashes and all of that. So I'm thankful for that. I did hear the podcast on Mel Robbins with Dr. Mary Claire Haver, I believe is her name.
yeah.
And I think that was like one of the most listened to podcasts of the year or something. But
Okay.
it really helped me understand estrogen, progesterone, like all that. So
Yeah.
that was kind of an encouragement to me. But otherwise, yeah, lifting some weights, trying to keep strong and not, and so, yeah. And real quick backstory is that years ago, I grew up like so many, just really obsessed with body image and weight and counting calories and trying all the fad diets. But it was after my second son was born that I was just like determined that I didn't want to live that way anymore. And so
Mm.
I just kind of went on a bit of a spiritual journey. I prayed and I tried to find books. I tried to find help, but I couldn't find anything that really spoke to where I was. So on my own, I kind of just went on this anti-diet campaign where I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to quit following any program. I'm not going to count calories. I am going to just trust you. I'm not going to call it intuitive eating. I think I was decided to just be really aware and, um, and just really focus on my thought life. So I started to just take those thoughts captive because I do believe that whatever we're focused on becomes such an obsession. And so
Yeah.
I really learned how to change the way I thought about myself, about food, about everything. And over pretty short time, I found myself at my ideal weight where I had wanted to be. And
Mm.
I was just like, oh my goodness, this is like amazing after years and years of dieting that I could throw all that out, trust God with things, really focus on my thought life and find myself exactly where I wanted to be. So years later, I kind of shared a blog post about this. People were like, I want more. So I self-published a little book before any of my parenting books came out. The title is kind of funny, but if you read it, you will understand. It's called The Secret of Your Naturally Skinny Friends. And it's
Mm.
really a book about mindset, and you can apply it to almost anything in the world, but it's so short. You can read it in an afternoon, but that has actually been something that is done really well. I've heard from thousands of people who are like, okay, that changed my life.
Cool.
It helped when Sadie Robertson and her sister-in-law, Mary Kate, did like a YouTube video saying that they found it somehow. I have no idea how they found it. This was before I was even a name out there. But anyway, so that's kind of my journey with
Cool.
my weight stuff. But here I am in this menopause journey, and I feel like I am applying the exact same thing, the exact same mindset where I am not going to go there mentally. I'm not going to obsess. I'm not going to go down any of those rabbit trails and try another fad diet. No, I'm going to trust God, take my thoughts captive, and really think about who I want to be. Who do I want to be as a grandma? How do I want to live my life? And now I'm going to act, eat, and exercise accordingly without allowing myself to obsess. So that's kind of a big answer to your quick
Great.
question. I hope that helps somebody out there.
No, that's so good because it is. It's all about how we're feeling about ourselves and thinking about ourselves. Because
Totally.
if you do set up kind of some diet, I mean, it's just historically, it's just you're not going to be consistent when
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do lose, you gain back because it's a
Absolutely.
lifestyle, and you're
Yep.
going to it because you're stressed or because you're because of your feelings of a certain way. And so if we can adjust those feelings
Mm.
inside of us,
Yep.
then we are adjusting how we're responding to food. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Well, and I love that you've talked about so much that like you just went to God. Like he is the creator of our bodies and he
Uh-huh.
knows each individually. So he really can tell us what we
Mm-hmm.
need to know to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Too often we're trying to find the next Google answer instead of just asking God.
Yes, and the other thing that I think makes my journey, or at least the book, unique, is that I did have to start by doing some heart work. I needed to go back and say, what kind of lies did I believe? How have these shaped how I think of myself? And that was a little bit painful because I had to go back and look at my life and realize that there were some hard things I went through and bring those to the Lord and let Him heal me in those areas. And I love that, like, this was 23 years ago that I went through all that. And now we've got all these mindset books and Christians talking about brain science. And I'm like, yes, that's what I was going through. And I had no idea.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, the way that we talk to ourselves matters. And
Yeah.
so many of us, I just don't even think we're aware of, there's such a powerful thing when you notice that what you're saying to yourself when you look in the mirror and see yourself, or when
Mm-hmm.
you look at a picture, like if we could more easily see that written out somewhere or like be able to hear that tape out loud, I think we would all be shocked at the way that we're talking to
Oh,
ourselves.
yes.
But if
Yes.
we don't tap into that and
Mm-hmm.
become aware and make those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
come
Yep.
captive to God and let God
Yep.
replace it with what's true about us,
Yes.
we stay in a really bad place with food and body image and things like
Totally. And with any area of life that somebody finds themselves defeated, there is no doubt that our thoughts are those, they describe them like a rut that your wheel gets stuck in, and your
Yeah.
mind just wants to return to that, even if it's negative and it's defeating and it's, you might, whatever area you might beat yourself up in, you're going to just return to it because it's comfortable. And
Yes.
that's just our brain. It likes to go back to its comfortable place. So it takes actual effort and intentionality. And what I love about this topic, and I could like geek out for hours on this, but I mean, I've used this same topic with my son who surfs. And when he has a rough patch in his competition, I'm like, buddy, now he works with a sports psychologist because he is so convinced that that is a key to competition. And my son who golfs, I mean, it applies to every area of our life, just what we say to ourselves and creating new ruts. And it's not easy. It takes intentionality, but goodness, it is so worth it, especially, if you're aligning your thoughts with what is true in God's word. Game changer all the way across the board.
Absolutely. The last thing I just wanted to pick up on what you said, though, is kind of recently in this phase of your life, you think about what kind of a grandmother do I want to be?
Yeah.
I think that's it for us, because I think too often, like as young girls, the mindset about our bodies is, I want to be attractive. Really the dark side of it is I want other girls to be jealous of me, and I want guys to be attracted to me. I mean, that's probably the dark but true thing.
Sure.
So it sets us up, if that's your mindset about why you're taking care of your body, it's just such a dark place to be operating out of. But for you to have such a healthy mindset about why you're going to make certain choices about the things you put in your mouth, how you move your body and things like that, because of the opportunities available to you if you have a strong body.
Yeah.
That shift that's everything.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And as Christians, to realize like my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. Like, how can I honor God with my body? And, then as you age, you start to have some health issues come up and you're like, whoa, I need to eat well, not for how it's going to make me look, but because I have one heart and, I want to take care of myself. So it's a big shift.
Monica, we love this. You are a wealth of wisdom. Yes. We want our moms to be able to get connected to you. Give us an idea of how can they connect to your character course, find your books, all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Homebase is my website, monicaswanson.com. And there's links there to everything. One of my favorite things in the world is meeting other moms. So if you are listening and you find me, please tell me how you found me. And I love to learn about people. Like, it's so exciting to me to hear where people come from and how many kids they have. So be sure to introduce yourself. But my character training course is something I only open 3 times a year. I'm always adding to it and improving it. And then I usually open the doors for a week in the fall, spring, and summer. And there is a page, there's a start here on my website and a page about character. And while you're waiting for it to open again, I have a really cool freebie and a little email series that I'll send you to just encourage you in your journey of raising kids of faith and character. So you can sign up there. And then on Instagram, I'm at Monica Swanson _, and I love to meet people there. The first and third Thursdays of every month, I do Q&As and stories. So that's a great place to bring me all your questions.
Yeah. No, you're doing such a good job on your social platforms. It feels very authentic, but you also pass on really good wisdom. And so she's a great follow, moms. Go give her a follow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for being with us, for being, sharing your wisdom, being so authentic. And we know this is going to bless so many.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you guys.
All right, moms, we love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.